If the conflict in Ukraine has shown anything, it's that drones have become increasingly common and come in many forms which can prove devastating for tanks. Today we're going to take a look at how these drones have impacted tank warfare and forced a lot of changes to be done to tanks in order to counter this new threat. Speaking of countering threats, I'm happy to present the sponsor for today, Atlas VPN. Atlas VPN offers the best deal in the market. For only $170 per month and 6 months extra, you can enjoy the most affordable online protection with a 30-day money-back guarantee. You can also unlock your favorite content all over the world. Can't access a specific Netflix show while abroad? Not a problem anymore, Atlas VPN got you covered. Atlas VPN also allows you to keep your Google searches private and gives you organic search results without anyone tracking your activity. What's more is that it's not just a VPN. Atlas lets you block all malicious links, ads, and trackers, and notifies you when someone is trying to steal your data. Furthermore, it helps you save coins by saving you the best deals while shopping online, including subscriptions like Netflix or Spotify, airlines, hotels, and more. In addition to all of that, Atlas VPN allows you to protect an unlimited number of devices with a single subscription. Grab the big deal because now Atlas VPN Premium is just $170 per month plus 6 months extra. And with a 30-day money-back guarantee, protect your privacy and get many benefits of Atlas VPN for the ridiculously low price. You can make this deal by clicking the link in the video description below. Be quick, as it's a limited time offer. First, we must distinguish between the several different types of drones. There are kamikaze drones, and even with them we have several different variants. There are the makeshift drones, which are often made by strapping some explosive, most often RPG rockets, to a commercial drone. And there are drones produced in factories with this intended purpose, like the Russian Lancet drone. The difference here is that drones like Lancet have much bigger range and are probably more reliable, where the makeshift drones depend a lot on what commercial drone and the type of explosive is used to make them. Then we have another form of makeshift drones, the ones that are made to drop explosives. These are less often used to attack armored targets and are more often used against infantry or to neutralize abandoned vehicles. But usually when they are made to attack tanks, they drop hollow charge explosives, commonly modified RPG rockets. The reason why so many makeshift drones are being used is because they are incredibly cheap, usually worth a couple of hundreds of dollars. They can destroy vehicles worth millions, and since they can be obtained from anywhere and are not dependent on the military output, they can be used in massive numbers. And then there are long-range military drones that can use various types of ordnance, like the TB2 Bayraktar, but they will not be a topic of this video because their level of threat is more comparable to helicopters or planes. There have been a lot of countermeasures developed to counter these drones. The most common one that probably everyone knows by this point are probably the top-mounted cage or slat armors, or much better known as cope cages. While maybe not originally designed to counter drones, they have proven to be somewhat effective at doing so, and we have seen various designs come out in the conflict in Ukraine, from regular cope cage design to a full mesh wire coverage of a vehicle. Of course, these cages are much more effective against drones made to drop explosives than the kamikaze drones. Reason for that is that kamikaze drones can fly under the cages and strike the vehicle, but it all depends on the cage design and the skill of the drone operator. That being said, they are not completely ineffective. Ukrainian cages have stopped Lancet drones on several occasions, and so have the Russian cages. But Russians have started to realize that the FPV drones are starting to become more and more common, since they are so easy and cheap to make. So they had to make something to counter them, because the regular cages are not a reliable way to actually do it. They came up with the drone suppression kits, most notably the Volnores kit. I've covered it before in my video on the TE-80, but it's appropriate to talk about it again here. This system is made to suppress the connection to the drone, so once the drone comes in the range of the system, the operator loses connection to it, or rather, loses control over it. This system was demonstrated in a Russian documentary, where they demonstrated how they lost control over the drone once the system was turned on. The stated range of the system is between 600 and 1000 meters, so any drone within that range will lose control, which is very good since it means that kamikaze drones will not be able to reach the tank to hit it, and it makes it pretty much impossible to land an accurate hit by dropping an explosive onto the tank, if you can even aim properly from that range to begin with. The system also has a magnetic base, so it can be mounted anywhere on the tank, and offers a 360-degree coverage, so it doesn't matter from which direction the drone comes. There are reports and visual evidence that it is being delivered to the units on the field, but it is questionable at what amount will Russians be able to produce them. They also presented various systems which are either planted on the ground or are some specific anti-drone vehicles, which should work together with other units on the field and block any drone in a much wider range than the smaller tank-mounted systems. There is also this anti-drone vehicle which uses BTR as a basis. It's said to be made with special radar that would detect drones and would likely fire programmable ammunition, which was recently talked about in another of their documentaries. Funnily enough, it doesn't seem to work on sensors, but on range airburst, which is obviously a much worse way to deal with drones than ammunition with sensors, which would burst as soon as it detected a surface in the air. But Russians don't appear to have such ammunition on their disposal. Another one of the methods they plan to counter the drones with are the new cope cage designs with the net hanging off the side, which I really don't like, because it makes it harder to leave the tank in case of an emergency. This net is supposed to catch and prevent the drones from hitting the tank before they can strike the armor of the tank, something that is likely to happen, since the drones like to aim under the cage to hit the weak roof armor of the tanks. But again, it does make it harder to leave the vehicle quickly. Speaking of the cope cages, it seems that Merkava tanks are getting the same treatment, which is not surprising since we have seen some of them get hit by drone drop modified RPG rockets. This seems to be a result of the lessons learned from the war in Ukraine, and we can see quite a bit of them modified with these cages. Now, of course, there are other types of weapons that are made to neutralize drones, such as special anti-drone rifles, but those are operated by infantry and aren't really meant for defending tanks and other armored vehicles. It's not clear how much of what Russia can actually produce, because that is always a question that needs to be asked when it comes to Russia. They like to present stuff and then put it aside and either don't produce it or do produce it but in low numbers. Not always, of course, but they do have a tendency to do that. The tank-mounted Volnores system seems to be in production and being delivered, but we have no evidence for other systems they have presented. They did show them off, but so far no proof of those being deployed. Ukraine unfortunately doesn't have the capacity to produce such systems right now. They did receive some CUAS anti-drone systems, but there aren't many of those and they can't be used during an offensive since they have to be deployed, so their vehicles are still vulnerable to Lancet strikes. I mean, Lancets aren't really amazing at destroying tanks, but still, they are somewhat a threat since they can at least damage some modules. Of course, they also have access to anti-drone guns for infantry, but again, not really meant for defending tanks. At the end, it is evident that drones are starting to shift the decisions and force manufacturers to come out with defense systems for the heavy equipment on the battlefield, since a cheap drone can neutralize vehicles worth millions. There is no doubt in my mind that we will start seeing more and more anti-drone systems being both developed and produced all over the world, since all recent conflicts have shown that drones are a rising threat on the battlefield. Of course, many countries out there already have many different anti-drone systems, but they were not the topic of this video. Anyhow, we will see what kind of different systems everyone will be coming up with in the near future. That's what we all for now. If you like my content, you can support me on Patreon. Thanks for watching and I'll see you all in the next video. Have a nice day.